Okay, we're live. We got to let it breathe just for a minute. Bring on the Facebookers. Hopefully, it all goes well. Stoked to see you all tonight. String Guy, David Yunkin. Great to have you. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, as per the tradition of the Aftermath and really the purpose of the Aftermath podcasts, we've had a day to kind of sleep on yesterday's game, marinate on things, work out our hormones. How are you feeling about this Broncos team now, one day removed from their 20-12 victory over the Tennessee Titans?
You don't, Chad, except for extenuating circumstances, I rarely change my posture 24 hours later. I like to keep it fairly level-headed, and I recognize both things could be true, and that is we're happy that the Broncos got a victory because they have to stack them up where they can get them. But also there's a lot of work that has to be done on the offensive side of the ball, and even Sean Payton talks about
Yeah, check your mic real quick, Zack, and
I'm sorry about that.
That's better. That's better.
Good call, Scott. And Sean Payton also admitted, Chad, it starts with him. You know, he appreciated the fact that Bo Nix took responsibility, and Bo Nix should take plenty. He played very poor yesterday, but Payton's play calling and some of his decision-making left a lot to be desired. So that's where I'm still at 24 hours later.
Yeah, even Payton said last night after the game, "I'll be better," as far as the delays, getting the play calls in. I mean, it's easy to crap on the quarterback on delay of games because that seems to be the most evident culprit when they happen. But in yesterday's instance, it was the play calls. Payton was just taking too long to decide what the next thing was going to be. And by the time you get in these long-ass West Coast offense play calls that have like 34 words in them, and you get the guys up to the line of scrimmage and you're trying to be a quarterback and, set your protections and possibly even change things, see what the freaking coverage is, what's the alignment, all that stuff. Boom, you're out of time. So, yeah, that's something you would think that they would have a better beat on. But then again, it's only week one, Zack. So, David Yunkin, what's going on, brother? Great to see you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being one of our valued members on YouTube. David says the defense is elite. Sean's playbook is like a novel of War and Peace. Too long-winded. Delay a game is Sean's fault, waiting until 10 seconds on the clock. Yeah, I have actually read War and Peace, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And I'm glad I read it. It was a good book. It was a bit of a slog, I must say, though. But David, yes, these are I don't think it's so much the playbook is like a novel. Well, yeah, in terms of its size, I guess it is, no doubt about it. But, Zack, really, it's just the nomenclature. And more than that, it's being a little bit more prepared relative to the clock. Like, you got to know that clock's a ticking, baby.
There's also the billion substitutions that Payton likes to run every game, Chad, and that slows down the process a lot significantly. And I would think that Payton would want to streamline that by now with Bo Nix in year two, but I think that a lot of the slog was caused by the substitutions that Payton likes to run.
And that's part of what, like, we learned in that, what was it, about a week before the season kicked off, The Athletic put out their coaches poll on the best offensive play callers, and Payton checked in at number 8. And it was based on NFL defensive coaches ranking their guys they hate going up against. And the big compliment Sean Payton was getting, Zack, in that anonymous quote from a defensive coach around the NFL, there was 2 aspects to the compliment. One was his first 15 plays that he scripts are just tough to defend. And then also, as you just mentioned, the substitutions, that he's moving things around and giving you so many different personnel in and out, plus different alignment personnel looks, that it forces you to think to a point where this defensive coordinator was like, you know what, we're not going to overthink it. Our antidote, our solution is we're just going to try and keep our poise and play it straight up. And hopefully that neutralizes kind of the trickeration, and not trickeration in terms of the plays, but just the window dressing and the moving around. But it is effective, Zack. It's just, you got to perfect it.
I mentioned last season that Bo Nix was visibly kind of frustrated and antsy with how long the play call was, Chad, and it doesn't seem like that's improving that much this season. Again, you think that Payton would streamline it, but he has that tendency to outsmart himself and galaxy brain himself when he really doesn't need to.
Papa Bear jumping in. What's going on, David? Great to see you, my brother. Thank you for the super. Thank you for being a member. He says, good evening, Broncos country. #13 and 4 plus. God bless the USA. Buckham times 3. MHH for life. Broncos for life. Let's go, Bo. And then his comment, Zach, is Bo Nix will be awesome. That's a big question that's been on Broncos country's mind since yesterday. I think everybody, not only Zach, based on how well Bo Nix acquitted himself as a rookie and the historic aspects to his body of work, but that combined with all the hype, much of which was being generated internally from Sean Payton, yesterday was a big letdown, and a little bit because it was such a striking deviation from the expectation. Man, fans are a little uneasy today, Zach.
Someone brought it to my attention on Twitter that it seemed like Sean Payton was trying to justify and build up, and kind of stat pad, in other words, Bo Nix. That's why he threw so much in the first half. That's what explains that bizarre 4th down call late in the game, Chad, where he chucked it downfield to, I think it was Marvin Mims. And there's some truth to that, maybe, because that's the kind of coach that Sean Payton is. When he makes a declaration, he will come hell or high water try to justify it. And I think we saw a lot of that yesterday. Run the damn ball.
Run the ball because you have the horses to do it now. And not only that, but it's the best way to improve the efficiency of your young quarterback and insulate him. Sam, what's going on, brother? Sam Bam checking in.
Thank you, Sam.
Very generous super chat. Also, an awesome member of the community on YouTube saying, "Hi, guys. A win is a win. I honestly thought the Broncos were going to have a sloppy win against the Titans, but I think Payton will have the Broncos, and particularly the offense, much more buttoned up against the Colts. Go Broncos." I hope so. And it's one thing when, you're, as the head coach and play caller, contributing to some of the chaos that was unfolding on the field yesterday, Zach. So I do have faith, and I always have had faith in Sean Payton. And in this instance, I have faith, Zach, that if he gets his side of the street cleaned up, that trickle-down effect on Bo and thus the offense will be palpable. But he's got to get that done sooner than later because, if you guys were watching the gut reaction yesterday, I watched the entire Colts-Dolphins game front to back. And, I mean, hey, it's one game. In the same way, we don't want to get too far out over our skis, Zach, over what the Broncos did. But the Colts looked like a legit team. And they're not going to be a pushover, in my estimation, on the road later this week at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Thank you, Sam. It wasn't just Sean Payton and Bo Nix that the problems were limited to, though, Chad. The offensive line, Ben Powers and Luke Wattenberg in particular, they were kind of below average to me. Also, the receiving corps let Bo down. Tyler Bidet in the backfield didn't have the chemistry with Bo, so the personnel was a problem. It was just a collective failure on offense yesterday. And, Sam, I have the same optimism that we'll see a much more, hopefully, efficient operation in week 2 going forward.
I do share your faith that Payton will get it done, though, Sam. Ronk, great to see you, brother. Good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos, checking in on Facebook, but he's also a Super Chat superstar and a member like Jake just became on YouTube. Thank you for that, Jake. Welcome, dude. Really appreciate you. You've been with us a long time. I think it's been a minute since I've seen you in the chat, which welcome back, buddy. But you've been with us a long time, so thank you for that support. Means a lot to us, buddy. The Lady D jumping in with a generous super chat. Thank you, Deanna. We love you so much. She says, glad we got the win. We must improve if we want to win against the Colts. Can't play like that and think we can win. I have to say, like Zach, coaching. Bo will do fine once he gets his feet under him. Hashtag MHH for life. Yes, indeed. Stoked to see you in a little over a month. It's going to be so fun, but it really does stem coaching. And the Broncos, in my opinion, Zach, they have the best of both worlds. They have the coaching, right, and they have the personnel. So it's just a matter of everybody kind of coming together and getting that chemistry and that flow down, which was obviously not quite there in week 1.
Thank you so much, Deanna, as always. And this was typified last season in Bo's rookie campaign. The first half of the year, the Broncos started out of the gates kind of slow, and Bo Nix didn't look that good. And it seemed like Sean Payton tweaked the playbook and made it a little easier, a little more Oregon-like for Bo to digest, and the Broncos had more success. So that's coaching right there. And Deanna, going forward, starting with this Colts game on Sunday, Sean has to lean on the run, take the pressure away from Bo Nix, and play to the team's strengths. And yesterday, the strengths were R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins.
Well said, my brother. Thank you again, Lady D. Yeah. The David in the house, or is it the David? I had a buddy in high school and we were, was it junior high actually, and we took German together. We had a German class together. It's how we became friends. And his name was Dave. And so the teacher teaching us the German, Mr. Wood was his name, and he said, your name in German would be David. That's how you would say it. And so now I see the David, I see the David, who says on Super Chat, by the way, thank you, big dog. Everyone 1-0 with two good, healthy running backs, a generational defense, and a franchise quarterback. We be good. It could be just like 2015. Have faith. Yeah, you take it back to 2015, Zach. You had great coaching. You had a great quarterback. You had this defense. You had the key pieces on the O-line. You had the key pieces at the skill positions. But the Broncos took some time. I mean, honestly, if you think back to that season, guys, it never really looked all that good at any point in the season. Payton was on his last legs. He was going through the injury. When Brock was on the field, you could see his inexperience. He had some games, don't get me wrong, but he was very much carried by the talent around him and especially the defense. And yet they still continued to win despite their foibles, which points again to Zach, my point after the game yesterday, which is one of the marks of a quality team is one that, it's not perfect. In fact, there's maybe more warts than you're comfortable with, but they still find a way to win. That's kind of what the 2015 team was all the way until the very end, dude. Seriously, like it was one fortunate happenstance after another, not in the hypey hype way that the Tim Tebow run was in the regular season, but little things like that just the cookie crumbled their way.
Yeah, there's no style points in the NFL. A win's a win, and it all counts the same. So we should be grateful. An 8-point victory, Chad, with the best defense in the NFL. We would have given anything for that 5 years ago. So let's have some perspective. There's a lot to work on, but it's week 1. We don't want the Broncos peaking now. And if that's the worst they look all year on offense, they're going to be just fine. I promise you.
Guys, lots more to get to, including your comments and questions in the chat, your supers. But guys, football's back. It feels good. In fact, I glance up. Football is on the screen. The Bears and the Vikings going at it. And while football is back, guys, Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. You just pick whether your favorite player is going to go higher or lower on stats. Players, by the way. Stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more.
That's right. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash, and you can play with as little as $1. So if you think you've got a bead on what Bo Nix's or any Broncos player stats are going to be in week 2, download Underdog and win some money today.
Guys, it's so fun. I mean, you get the chance to win money while you're watching football. It's hard to beat that. So download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. Again, that's promo code MHuddle. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money.
Be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Interestingly, Zach, the Bears offense already on the board, leading the Vikings 7-0. So for what it's worth, the Ben Johnson effect may already be measurable. Lady D, thank you for gifting 10 MHH YouTube memberships to the awesome folks in the chat. I'm sure those who receive the gifts are appreciative of that. You're awesome. And speaking of, tomorrow's Tuesday, which means noon Mountain Time. It's a fresh episode of Kelberman's Corner. Hot takes that hold water with your boy, Zack Kelberman.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Deanna, for gifting the memberships to the community as you like to do. You are incredible. Can't wait to see you at the meet and greet next month, and can't wait to see you all on KK tomorrow. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, okay, guys, back to the issue at hand. Taylor on Super Chat jumping in, one of our valued members and superstars, says,
Taylor.
I think Sean Payton should hand off the play calling to Davis Webb. I'm not worried about Bo at all. He'll get it together. Trust me. Jaleel should play instead of Bidet. Yeah, I don't know what that was about Bidet. I mean, you've got a couple of points here, obviously, Taylor, and we'll get to them. But I wish someone would have been a little bit more direct in the post game, asking coach about why Jalil was sat down in favor of Bidet when Jalil's already proven to be more reliable in terms of the multifaceted running back, catching passes, screens, all that stuff. Like, he's already proven, no problem, I can do that stuff. Maybe he's not, the big time pass protection guy, but neither is Bidet. If you look at their size, they're very similar, although Bidet he's got a few pounds on him, but size-wise, they're pretty similar, Zach. So I don't know what that was about, but we'll see if it changes moving forward.
Yeah, Taylor, I'll split the difference with you here. I agree with you on Jalil. He has a much better chemistry with Bo Nix catching passes out of the backfield. And there was a time last season where he was the best running back on the roster who Sean Payton trusted the most. I don't agree, though, that he should pass off play calling duties. That's a little bit of an overreaction after 1 week. No one, and I've been super critical of Payton's play calling since he's been head coach, but no one was saying this when the Broncos were into the playoffs and even after the Buffalo game last season. And this is all an overreaction, I think, because Davis Webb looked good in that role in the preseason. But let's see it play out for at least one more week before we start to dismantle the order of operations here.
Yeah, I'm not quite there either, although what was it? The Cardinals game he called, I think. The second game is the one Webb called in the preseason, and that was that big Jarrett Stidham game. I mean, Stidham looked good in game one, but he really looked good in game two. What was that? The 2-touchdown Troy Franklin game, I'm pretty sure. Sean Payton, I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time at offensive play calling, and he's very confident, obviously, Zach, in his own abilities. I do not foresee him given that particular responsibility up, although perhaps he will try to include the young buck a little bit more here and there. But another awesome thing for Sean Payton, Zach, is by beating the Titans, he leapfrogged Mike Shanahan and who else? It'll come to me. I think it was Tom Coughlin and one more, but in the all-time wins, NFL history head coaches. So think about that. I mean, Mike Shanahan was a fixture in Denver 95 through 2008. And yeah, he had 2 more years in Washington head coaching, and then he had that failed stint with the Raiders. But Sean Payton is an institution. He's been around a long time to be able to pass a prolific guy like Mike Shanahan, who we all know, if he was Mike Shanahan, former 2-time back-to-back head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, he'd already be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, you know how they say an owner can't fire himself or he won't fire himself? That's basically the position Sean Payton's in. No reason why he has to give up play calling. This is his baby. We all know how cocky and maybe egotistical Sean Payton is. So unless he gets pressure from ownership, he's not going to do that. And I don't see ownership pressuring him anytime soon.
Lady D jumping in again. We love you. I don't know what we do without you. Thank you so much for your positivity, your generosity, and also your unique opinions on these very pressing Broncos subjects. Thank you, Lady D. Love you. She says, they definitely need to run the ball. We will win more than we lose. I believe in Bo. Harvey and Dobbins are a great duo. You're welcome. Looking so forward to the meet and greet. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I like both Harvey and Dobbins. Now, I only watched the game once, and it was while it was live, and I'm doing other things. I'm live tweeting. I'm doing stuff. I'm later in the game getting ready for this podcast, all that stuff. But Eric Trickle, he watched the game live. He watched the All-22 film to put out his grades. He said that Dobbins is looking a little slow. Did that occur to you at all? I'm not trying to critique Eric. I'm just genuinely asking. I have to go back and watch and see, or maybe I'll just pay more attention in week 2. But he carried it 16 times, but he didn't seem slow to me, especially on that 19-yard touchdown. Like, he was patient, trusted his eyes and the blocking, and then boom, squirted through, broke some contact, gone.
Well, I don't think the Broncos signed him for his speed. He's a power back, and he showed that on that touchdown run when he broke multiple tackles. RJ Harvey's the speed guy, and he showed that off getting around the edge. He might have gotten a little winded toward the end, first game playing in that mile-high altitude, but it's a perfect compliment. I always talk about what Detroit has in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. That's what the Broncos basically have a light version of. But you're right, Deanna. Thank you so much for your generosity as always. And when you look at the schedule, Chad, the next 4 games, it's quite the daunting task. You got at Indy, at Chargers, home for the Bengals on Monday night, and also at Philly. And after that's the Jets game in London. So they're going to have to figure out what their identity is, if they're a run-first team, a pass-first team, and they're going to have to find out very, very quickly.
I mean, with the exception of perhaps the Eagles, which is quite a ways away, the one big difference, though, is that D line that the Titans have. I mean, I'm surprised, honestly. Dobbins got it 16 times. Most of those carries came in the second half. He still managed 3.9 yards per carry, which isn't like jumping off the screen in the same way that RJ Harvey's 11.7 yards per carry average was. But against that Titans defense, man, it was grinded out. And some of those runs against a lesser defensive line, Zach, will pop, and look, the Colts have still DeForest Buckner, who looked very good yesterday for what it's worth, but that D-line as a whole, not as much of a physical force, which I think will also allow the Broncos interior to look a little bit better than they did that first game.
The problem is, though, the interior run blocking, and that's been an issue since the preseason, Chad. It's so spotty. It's so inconsistent. There's holes that open on some plays, and there's none that open on other plays. And regardless of who they play, I mean, the Jets defense is going to be tough. The Chargers defense is going to be tough. None of these opponents are going to be easy. And the run blocking and up front, and all of the operation, from the play calling to the running backs to the blocking, they have to figure out how to become a run-first team, and quickly.
I want to grab a couple comments from members. More super chats I see, but real quick, Jake's saying that he's been listening since we drafted Bowles. That was 2017, by the way, big dog. Might have been since drafting Lynch, which that was 16. But, dude, that's awesome. That's so cool you've been with us that long. And we feel old when we hear these things, but we also take pride in our age and hope that it translates somehow to wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Jason, also a member, saying, good evening all. Yesterday was a big wake-up call. Confident the offense cleans it up this weekend and they show a market improvement against the Colts. Do you say in that phrase, it kind of depends on where someone's from in the country. Do you say marked improvement, Zach, or would you say market improvement?
I can't bring myself to say market.
I know it sounds so stupid, but
can't
that's how I read it. Like when I'm reading it in a book or something, market. I don't know. Either way, your response here to Jason's point.
But isn't it great that we got a wake-up call and still came away with a victory? The Broncos are 1-0, and they picked up an AFC victory at that. So that's what I'm saying. If it's week one, the Broncos won by 8, the defense looked utterly dominant, and they still came away with the W, it could be a lot worse. Don't let them peak now. They're going to get better as the season goes on, Jason. I think starting on Sunday at Indy.
Yeah, Ronk, it's only one game. Plenty of time to improve. Jason on Super Chat, thanks for the support, big dog. It means the world to us, helps us keep the lights on. Want to encourage you, though, become a member. Click the join button on our YouTube homepage. Says Jason, though, a win is a win. Offense will improve, but with that defense, will be in every game and afraid of no one. Do we really need Dre Greenlaw? Thank you. We haven't gotten to that yet. The answer is, do we need him? Like, not going to win games without him? No. But imagine how much better it could be, because Singleton, he was solid. I'm proud of him. I'm stoked for him. That was his first game back after missing whatever it was, Zach, 14 games last year with an ACL. But you could see the rust was falling off for him in chunks. And Sternad, thank goodness, had himself a game in relief of Greenlaw. But do they need Greenlaw? No. Could they really use him even as good as they are? Yes. And Sean Payton said today in kind of offhand, it wasn't answering a direct question on the subject. He was asked about Talanoa Hufanga's amazing play in the debut, and he was talking about him. And then it reminded him of something of Greenlaw. So he said the same goes for Greenlaw on that same issue. You know, something about, what was it? Intensity or whatever. Anyway, and he goes, but you'll be seeing Greenlaw sooner than later. What exactly does that mean, Zach? I don't know. But if the Broncos had any designs on, hey, he's close, he probably could play like if yesterday was a game, Zach, for all the marbles, for example, I bet you Greenlaw's playing. I bet you he's practicing all week. And so if they're thinking, we can rest him through these first 2 games and be okay, they're probably right in terms of being okay, because Justin Sternad looked good. Singleton will get better as the season wears on, I'm certain of. But the Colts are not the Colts we maybe thought they were even sitting back in August, Zach. I'm telling you right now, they're going to be a little bit more of a handful than we initially reckoned.
Well, I heard this exact same phrase. You're going to see him soon when it comes to Greenlaw from Payton in the preseason or during
Yep.
training camp. And I'll believe that when that happens. Hopefully he gets out there soon. But do you need him? Yeah, that's why you gave him $31.5 million. Why else would you sign him then? Sternad was good for one game against a poorer offense. I don't know how that's going to hold up over the course of a season. Singleton's still a very one-dimensional limited player, Chad, good against the run, but exploited in coverage. You signed Greenlaw for his coverage ability. You signed him to finally rectify that Achilles heel of not having a dynamic pass covering inside linebacker. So yeah, you need him because you're going to be playing a lot of good offenses soon. Not everyone's going to be Cam Ward back there.
You don't have to rush him on one hand, but I'm telling you right now, if he's good enough to play, let him play because these Colts are for real. But I'm kind of in that same place you are, Zach, in terms of Sean Payton hyping us up about when he's going to be around. I'll believe it when he's out there. When I see it, I'll be, oh, okay, he really is back. The question is, when's that going to be? Sooner rather than later is pretty vague. Doesn't really give us any specificity on the subject. My guess, educated, I'm going to say my prediction is week 3 Chargers, but we'll have a good indication of whether I'm right or wrong on Wednesday. Even if he's limited in practice on Wednesday, it's a bigger step toward possibly playing week 2, but we won't know even anything at all till then.
I mean, I'm going to take the word of the man who literally despises talking about injuries and purposely withholds information about injuries. I agree. I see Rodney saying, don't rush Greenlaw. I'm not saying rush him, but you are eventually going to need him. That's why you signed him in the first place. So get healthy soon, Dre, please.
No doubt about it. Eric Flynn, good to see you on Facebook, big dog. Thanks for being around and for the support as always, brother. And yeah, Pro 16, no game is easy in the NFL. There are no gimmies, but there are those matchups where it's like, hey, you're favored to win, or the expectation is you're going to win, and the Broncos are out to prove, kind of like last year. That was one of the marks that they had turned a corner, is they beat all the teams that they were supposed to beat, Zach, but they struggled to beat any of the teams that they weren't supposed to beat. They came that gum close in Kansas City, whatever that was, week 10. That was close, but all the higher quality opponents, and I'll even include Cincy in that equation, even though they missed the playoffs last year. You know, the Broncos fought hard, but they ended up, those were the games that they lost. They found ways to lose, but you learn more from failure than you do winning. And so even though it's good to have a little bit of that taste of loss and that disappointment, even in a winning season as last year was, because it helps to inform them moving forward. They have that now, Zach, that collective experience of being in those games against tougher opponents and just kind of the difference that it takes, that intensity level. I mean, think about that Bengals game. Joe Burrow would not be denied. In the final analysis, he wouldn't be denied, but Bo Nix wouldn't either. He freaking made some huge plays in the fourth quarter. Marvin Mims as well, to force that to overtime. If Sean Payton puts a little trust in his quarterback, maybe they win that game with the 2-point conversion instead of kicking the extra point. But I digress. This is a young team. Failure helps inform, helps learn. I think you're going to start seeing that come out in the wash this year, but they played so little in the preseason that there's, consider that kind of their dress rehearsal. It wasn't an exhibition game. Thank God it was against a rookie quarterback. As good as I think Cam Ward, Zach, is actually going to be, thank God it was him week 1.
I'm glad you brought up the Bengals. They're an interesting case study similar to the Broncos. Look what they did the offseason, Chad. They loaded up for an obvious Super Bowl run. They brought back T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and they re-signed Trey Hendrickson. And they played the Browns, the first week of the season, the worst team in the NFL. I believe the final score was 17-16. They barely eked out a victory. It happens because Pro 16 is right. No game is easy in the NFL. No team or opponent is a gimme. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. And that's why the Broncos can't play down to their level of competition. And I think they did that a little bit yesterday, Chad. They walked in there thinking, we're at home facing a rookie quarterback team with the number 1 overall pick last year. We can play half effort or whatever and experiment and still blow them out. That's never going to work in the NFL.
Jeremy, I need your phone number. So shoot me an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and give me your phone number. I need to talk about something, homeboy. Jeremy Sean. The David jumping in again. Perhaps it is, in fact. Oh, it's the David. Of course, I know what the sculpture is. I'm at least semi-cultured enough to recognize the statue of David with the Bronco hat on. I get it. What, you didn't like my 8th grade anecdotes about German class? Anyway, it's a marble sculpture, he says. Thank you for the super chat again, bro. Number 2 by Michelangelo. As stout and fire as our defense. I'm native since 83. Awesome, dude. Huge Broncos fan. Love the channel, its energy into the universe with my 4 kids. Respect to Mac. Go Broncos. Hashtag MHH for life. That's cool, dude. Really appreciate you and the positive vibes and the props for the channel. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you so much, David.
That's cool, man. Appreciate you. George Fox jumping in on Facebook, throwing down as he is wont to do. Appreciate you as well, George. Good to see you tonight. Zach, this is an interesting point, and it's encouraging from the Ronk. Hey, Daniel Jones, let's face it, man. This guy looked good week 1. The Colts, I forget the stat now, but they scored on all 7 of their possessions, which is the first, and did not have a possession in which they did not score. That's the definition of all, I guess, right? It is an absolute. But that's the first time a team had done that in many, many moons, decades. Daniel Jones looked good. It wasn't just like eking by, getting a field goal on all 7 possessions. He looked good. But Ronk's point here is, be that as it may, Daniel Jones hasn't played the Broncos defense yet.
Exactly. And every year, Sam Darnold was the case last season. Every year, there's a quarterback who gets way overhyped based on one performance or a couple games body of work. And I know he played well, but the Dolphins are garbage, hot garbage at that. I'm not taking that much away from that week 1 Colts victory. Let's see, like Chad said, how DJ looks, a guy who got ran out of New York and replaced by Russell Wilson. Let's see how he looks against this dominant Broncos defense. Then we'll talk.
One of our dear members, Pearl Heater, jumping in to ask, Zach, can the opposite be true too? Playing to the upper level of the opposition, the opposing team.
Yeah, and you saw that last season, Pearl, the shootouts that the Broncos got in. I know the defense kind of let him down against the Chargers the second game, the Bengals game that, like, as Chad referenced before. So at least on offense, we've seen Bo rise to the occasion, and we've seen the Broncos play up, except maybe in the Buffalo playoff game, to a superior opponent. That's what I think is going to happen. It seems like they struggle when they're picked to win, Chad, or when they're the favorite. They're much better as an underdog.
Agreed. I agree with that. That's just kind of where they've been for so long now. It's still just kind of the best disposition for them. And it takes time to become a team that is comfortable being the favorite. It takes time. I mean, Peyton Manning teams, they weren't the favorite for a long time. Even as he started to find his footing as a pro, he was a day 1 starter, but it was like a couple of years before it was like, yeah, let's go out and handle our business. And sometimes you still get upset, but the Broncos still more comfortable, Zach, playing that. Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. They're more comfortable playing that, the underdog. Lady D, oh my goodness,
so
3rd
top
rope super chat of the night. Love you so much. She says, my opinion, the hype needs to lessen. It puts unnecessary pressure on the whole team. Winning after so many turnovers is also a tremendous accomplishment. Most other teams would have lost with that many turnovers. Positive takeaway from yesterday's game, and a good one at that. And I think it was the first win since 2016 where the Broncos had 4 turnovers and still won. And that last one was against the Los Angeles Chargers back in 2016. So they might have been the San Diego Chargers. Either way, it was the Chargers. And interestingly enough, it just illustrates, Zach, it is not easy to win games when you turn it over 4 times. And that doesn't count the 2 turnover on downs the Broncos had as well.
It's not easy to win in the NFL, period. And that's something Sean Payton likes to tell the team. And it's true. And thank you so much again, Deanna. First and foremost, you are absolutely incredible. But these are situations where we would have been very fortunate, again, 5-6 years ago. I don't have to tell you guys how many times the Broncos had that many turnovers, played that sloppy, and were picked to win. They ended up losing the game. It's still a difference in culture and a difference, I think, in coaching and quarterback play, obviously, when the Broncos can have a bad game and still come out on top. That counts for something, in my opinion.
Well said. Well said. And thank you again, Lady D. And that's a very positive takeaway. I would concur 100%. Let's see what Andy's up to on Facebook. He says the Broncos were supposed to win by 8, and they did. Don't worry, they're not losing any games soon. Who knows how or what any team is at this point. It's early. They won after 4 turnovers. That says a lot. They won't be that sloppy every game. That's for sure. Bo Nix, if we can trust anything about Bo Nix, it's that he'll rubber band back to the hard-to-sack, stingy about turnovers quarterback that he's been his whole career, really since going to Oregon, I'll say, right? So dating back his last 3 years of playing high-level football, he's a tough sack, and he doesn't give the ball away. But what I want to see from Bo is, man, don't make it harder than it needs to be, my dog. And keep in mind your freaking technique. Like, he was breaking down and just stupid arm angles, unnecessary, not setting his feet. And yeah, he was pressured a lot, Zach. That was one of our complaints in the gut reaction last night, and we've even talked about it today. O-line not looking so hot, but he also showed a slightly concerning penchant for looking spooked when there wasn't pressure. And by looking spooked, I simply mean not minding his P's and Q's on technique and stuff, and not setting his feet and using unnecessary arm angles and just weird stuff that just seemed like he was trying too hard.
Yeah.
Again, I'll go back to the P word. Seemed like he was pressing a little bit. And I think this also circles back to something Deanna just said about the high expectations, and people just need to go, hey, football, let's just let go. Football's back, guys. We don't need to go, it's Super Bowl or bust. Thank you, Sean Payton, for that and everything and all. And of course, Broncos fans have high standards, and yes, we want the Super Bowl, but let's just enjoy this, getting to finally watch the team again after so many months off, and enjoying a young quarterback continuing to grow within the league. I mean, even last night after the game, Sean Payton was asked, Zach, about Bo Nix's growth. What kind of growth has Bo Nix shown, you think, in game 1? And dude, it was like the quintessential dismissive, insulting. Here's what he said. I'm just going to read it to you real quick. He said where he saw growth from Bo after last night's game. Quote, here's the thing, though, and I appreciate the question, but we're not going to have a growth meter each week in year 2. He's in his 2nd year. I love the player. I get a chance to see him every day. He can be a huge reason why we win games, and so we're not going to have that weekly meter. That's the first refused growth meter in week 1. I mean, that's crazy. Close quote. Zach, I hate to have been, I shudder to have been, whoever that was, I feel bad for him.
I feel like when you're Sean Payton's quarterback, though, and a young quarterback at that, you're going to try to press in week 1 of your 2nd season when your coach told you could be a top 5 guy. Publicly, by the way, made that declaration just a few weeks ago when he's saying that you're quarterbacking a Super Bowl capable team. That's a lot of pressure to put on Bo Nix, and I think Nix is feeding and kind of vicariously living through Sean Payton in that sense, and going out there and playing as if Sean Payton coaches. That is kind of cocky, thinking he knows and can make the plays, and doing what he shouldn't be doing. And hopefully, like you said, Chad, that kind of comes back down to earth in week 2.
Sonny, one of our great members, thank you for being a member, says the Dolphins defense made Daniel Jones look like Peyton Manning. He won't have that game against the same game against Denver. I agree on that front in terms of he's going to find it a lot tougher going against the Broncos. But I'm telling you, yes, they looked, whoever else said that the Finns defense looked like a turnstile. Yes, I'll agree with you. But Jones, I was surprised by his play. One game, but I was surprised. Cody, thank you for the super chat, big dog, and for being an awesome member as you are. Colts won't put up 33 on this defense. That's a fact. I agree. And yet, all right, it's pretty touch and go, Zach, last season until Jonathan Taylor dropped the football on the 1 yard line or whatever, the 1 inch line. You know, the Colts had the Broncos on the ropes a little bit early, like they were motorboating them, and that was a nice swing for the Broncos, and they managed to take that momentum, harness it, never look back. But it could have been a different story. So all I'm saying is, yes, Zach, the philosophy of any given Sunday always holds true, but the Colts, man, they look good in week 1, and don't sleep on them. I do think the Broncos are going to handle their business. It's just not going to be quite the walk in the park that I initially perceived it to be. I'll just speak for myself, Zach, when the schedule initially came out.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they put up 33.
David saying, haha, by the way, I love your anecdotes. My kids and I watch this pod and listen to it in the car on the way home from the games. Dude, that's awesome. Thank you for including us in your family game experience. That's awesome. Can't get over this defense. I just pray they can stay healthy. I know. And especially Zach, like we were wondering, hey, I was a lot more vocal about this in the summer than you were, but I'll speak for myself once again. I was like, do you want to pay Benito after a 1-year wonder kind of deal? Do you want to see him like do it a little bit in the next season before you like roll out the Brinks truck? But he gave us a hint of it in that one preseason game that he appeared in. And then yesterday, he was an absolute terror, dude. Like, I'm starting to, when I see him out there, he's still not the physical guy that Vaughn was against the run, but he's so dominant. He impacts the game on almost every snap that when I see him out there now, I get visions of Von Miller.
Yeah, I saw something on Next Gen Stats about Nick Benito, who's worth every penny, by the way. He had 22 pass rushes, Chad. He had 9 pressures of those 22 pass rushes, and 5 of those pressures were under 2.5 seconds. I mean, the guy is beyond dominant, and the Broncos were very wise to lock him up now.
Think about this. Bradley Chubb was supposed to be the successor to the great Von Miller. And maybe he could have been, perhaps, if things would have gone a little bit differently for him. But the Broncos, Zach, ended up trading him to the Dolphins for Sean Payton, essentially, right? That's the way it basically shook out. They took that first-round pick they got for the Bradley Chubb trade from the Dolphins and used that to parlay with the Saints to get the rights to hire Sean Payton.
And people say George Payton's not an elite general manager. Get out of here.
Yeah, by now, look, I understand why some people were saying that following the Hackett hire and the Russ trade, but now you got to just tip your cap. I mean, even the most vociferous doubters, nay, critics of George Payton have to hand it to him. Admit the dude's doing a damn good job. And it's worth mentioning too, Zach, the Paytons, spelled differently, but the Paytons have turned out to be a very good working tandem, right? Like, yeah, once football gets here, Sean Payton's focused on the coaching and whatnot, but the big personnel decisions, Sean Payton's not in there doing the scouting, but when it comes time to make those personnel decisions, whether it's draft, pro personnel, free agency, stuff like that, they are making good decisions together, and George Payton's doing a good job to keep Sean Payton's prototypes and whatnot in mind when he's scouting guys. And so far it's been a very cohesive pairing. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised by that. I wasn't sure if maybe Sean Payton originally, I mean, this is ancient history now, but when Sean Payton hired here, Zach, we were like, how is George Payton basically gone after the draft? Because that's what happens in a lot of cases.
I mean, the haters and the cynics of George Payton need to get over it. It's been 3 years since the Hackett hire and the Russell Wilson trade. In those 3 years, he has more than made up for those failures, which weren't all 100% on him anyway. But another story for another day.
Ronk says that Hufanga was wearing a Bo Nix shirt. Well, he also said, he got asked a question that was kind of in the vein of at his locker after the game of like, tough game for Bo. What do you make of it type thing? And he said, look, it's a team sport. That's the cool thing. Regardless of the outcome, whether Bo throws interceptions, we have our part defensively. We have to step up too. I have a lot of confidence in Bo. I wouldn't be wearing this shirt if I didn't have confidence in my guy. So that's Talanoa Hufanga on Bo Nix, Zach.
I also like what he said about the defensive performance yesterday. He goes, we have a great secondary. Don't get me wrong, defensive player of the year, but that front seven is really incredible, and he's not lying.
This sucks, Roger. Not talking much tonight because I have a cracked and abscessed tooth. I am feeling really miserable, even with pain pills. Need to have it extracted later this week. Then the swelling goes away. Yeah, man. Teeth are. You don't really think about it till you don't have a choice. Like they're fine until they're not. When you get genuine tooth pain, it's hard to really match that against anything else. And that's coming from a guy who was genuinely, I broke my back many years ago, but I broke my back. And so thoughts up for you, big dog. Prayers. Get that sucker yanked out ASAP, bro.
Yeah, feel better, man. That definitely sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
All right, where are we at time-wise? Man, I could look to the left. It's not there. I got to look to the right now. We're at 45 minutes. Guys, we're doing pretty good time-wise, but we're getting close. So let's call this the 2-minute warning. Any burning topics, questions, supers, get them in the chat. We'll get to them before we dip on out of here. But Rodney, thank you for always being in the chat, big dog. I want to invite you as well. Become a member. Go click the join button and become a member of MHH. Rodney says these next couple of games will be battle tests for Denver and how adversity takes place. Don't be too confident or cocky and just take care of business. Well said, dude. And I think yesterday, again, they won the game. We can't lose sight of that fact. And I think for the most part, everybody in our community is doing a good job of keeping that in mind. But it was sloppy enough and not up to standard enough that, Zach, I'm confident that that'll have been a bit of a, not only a wake-up call, but, an appeal to certain dudes' pride. Sean Payton being one of them, Bo Nix being one of them. I mean, it would not shock me in the least if you saw the Broncos offense come out. I know I've been talking at the Colts. They did look good yesterday, but it would not shock me at all if Bo Nix and the Broncos offense came out gangbusters on the road in Indy and just lit it up in the first half, just because they're kind of pissed to be hearing the things they're hearing, even though they know it's true. They weren't too good yesterday.
I think being too cocky, being too arrogant, and overlooking their opponent to an extent contributed to that. And they got humbled by a victory. Think about that for a second. Not a loss, but a win. So they're going to take that in week 2 and make the proper corrections. And like Chad's saying, I think you'll see a better offense for sure in Indy.
No, Sam. Sam wants to know with the super chat. Thank you, brother. Again, number 2 for you tonight. Was Pat Bryant a healthy scratch yesterday? I just realized I never heard his name in the game. No, he did dress. I can tell you what, Zach, if you want to talk for a minute, I'll pull up the game book and we can see how many snaps he got.
Yeah, I didn't. There wasn't too many Pat Bryant sightings yesterday, except for Cortland Sutton and Troy Franklin. Yeah, there wasn't too much going around for him.
Exactly 4 snaps on offense. So there you go. He was healthy. He was dressed. He was out there. 4 snaps on offense, none on specials. So he played officially 5% of the offensive snaps. I expect that to improve as time marches on, especially if, Zach, Trent Sherfield's blocking snafus don't improve on the quick. They need that blocking on the perimeter. Pat Bryant's another guy that can be relied on in that sense, even though he is a rookie.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. Not only did McLaughlin get scratched for the game, but also Q Robinson, Savion Jones. I mean, you spent considerable draft capital on these players, including Pat Bryant. So I would want the Broncos to get them on the field more when where applicable. So
while I'm still on the sheet here, let's take a look at the draft class snap count. So I already mentioned Pat Bryant 4. RJ Harvey had 22. That was 29% of the offensive snaps he was out there. That's pretty solid for him, to be honest. Dobbins was out there for 53%. I know he's not a rookie, but just in contrast, so you can kind of get a feel for Harvey's playtime. Evan Ingram, also not a rookie, but 26 snaps. That was 34%. Apparently, Zach, he's fine with the calf. I think it was a calf. We'll see. But who else? I'm looking for the rookies here. Barron, Zach Jade Barron had 21 snaps on defense. Had that recovered fumble. You wrote about him today. 37% of the snaps he played today, yesterday.
Yeah, and Sean Payton was talking about it. It's tough for the first round pick to get in there when McMillian is looking so good in the nickel, and he's right. McMillian won that starting job fair and square, Chad, out of training camp, and he's the better player right now. But Barron is going to get in where he's fitting in, and that right now that's on dime looks and those kind of packages.
Q Robinson was a healthy scratch. He was one of the inactives, as was third-round defensive lineman Savion Jones. So I think that wraps up the rookie class that is on this team, unless I'm not counting Crawshaw, I guess. But, he was on the field for his 7 special team snaps, did his job. So anyway, there's your snap count update for the rookies. Doc JC, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being one of our valued MHH members on YouTube. He says, String Guy, fly down to St. Kitts and I'll put you in my docket and the treatment will be Bronco fan to Bronco fan. Just saying. Oh, that is my doc. Okay, smiles are my thing. That's cool, dude. That's awesome. Maybe I'll come visit you one of these days, brother. No, thank you very much for the super chat, Doc.
Yep. Thank you.
Cody Dubb, some people aren't realizing how good that Titans D-line actually is. Not every team is stacked on the D-line like that. And that was a point I was trying to make yesterday and today. You know, we got to factor that in, Zach, to how Wattenberg didn't look good. Powers didn't look too good. Honestly, Quinn Miners didn't look too good, but it was Miners who drew the toughest assignment of the day, mostly having to take on Jeffrey Simmons, who, even though he got all that attention from the offensive line, plus the fact that Miners is an all-pro, he still impacted the game, dude, all through the game, and had that strip sack on Bo Nix. Wasn't that Jeffrey Simmons that got the strip sack on Bo as well? So Jeffrey Simmons, dude, he's a thing.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Cody. How many millions have the Broncos poured into the offensive line? This is supposed to be a top 3 unit in the NFL. It works both ways. And to quote JFM, the standard is the standard. And the standard should be to block the best opposing player in the front 7. And they didn't do that. And this is an issue, Chad, that went back to the preseason. What was the excuse then? They were too leaky in pass protection, and they weren't opening holes in run blocking.
Yes, by the way, the Broncos relinquished 1 sack. It was Jeffrey Simmons, the strip sack, Bo's 3rd giveaway. It was the 2nd giveaway, but it accounted for the 3rd, so to speak. So 2 picks and a fumble. All right, guys, we got a few messages for you. Then we're going to dip on out of here, but don't go quite yet because we're going to check the chat one last time.
Another tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at Mile High Huddle. You can also follow the pod, the MHH pod, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com. Get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Hey, shout out to Arvada Orange. Howdy, fellas. Never a doubt this past Sunday we talk about Bo leaving this time. Just time for us to all have faith. Amen to that. And night to Lady D, as she's saying goodnight to everybody. Pearl, have a good night, everybody. All right, guys, a Mile High salute, a special shout out to the great Super Chat Superstars, supporters, and members helping us keep the lights on tonight, like Sam Bam, David Yunkin, the Papa Bear, David McElrath, the Ronk, Jake becoming a member. Shout out to your family, brother. The Lady D, multiple top rope supers. The David, multiple top rope supers. Shout out to your family. Taylor Christensen, legend. Oh, I didn't get this one. I started, but I didn't get it. Shout out to the Mile High Dutchie, our good buddy Albert Knoppers, who says, "What's a win is a win. When the trophy's being held up, it doesn't matter how you got there."
That's true.
Great point. Josh, thank you, buddy. Eric Flynn, thank you. George Fox, Cody Dubb, Doc JC, much love and respect, guys. Zach and I are off until Thursday together, but if you are a member on YouTube, you'll get to see Zach tomorrow at noon Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, for the next edition of Kelberman's Corner.
Cannot wait to see you guys there. And Chad and I will see you Thursday. Have a great start to your week. We'll see you then. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.